and gentlemen, if you've been living in Zimbabwe for the past 20 years, you'll be faced with these circumstances. Your parents would be starving to death. You will be forced to raise your children inside forests. Why? Because the president of Zimbabwe, this man, Robert Mugabe, is the reason for his suffering. Because you are not black people, unless for certain people, then you would be oppressed and discriminated in the country of Zimbabwe, simply because there Robert Zimbabwe passed a law in his constitution that he can take any land possessed by the white peoples that are residing inside Zimbabwe. And because he has the right to take your land, you have no choice but to live without any property. And in the end of the day, you'll be ending up in jungles and forests. So a lot of white people had been fleeing from Zimbabwe since then. And since last year, when he asked to resign, everything has returned to normal. Okay, before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to the to Mr. Shams, our lecturer, and to my fellow friends. Right, before I move on, what is actually my topic for today? My topic for today is that the United Nations should have the power to revoke the authority of corrupted world leaders. Now, what actually is corrupted leaders, right? Corrupted leaders are leaders who does not act upon any actions of violence that had been inflicted upon the people, and number two, their act of corruption is very obvious in the first place from the get-go. So that is the definition of corrupted leader. Now, if the leader that governs a certain country has those kind of characteristics, I believe, and as what my stance is, United Nations should revoke their power in order to save lives, because you will not be wanting your children to face a life inside the forest and jungles. Right. How are we going to do this, right? The United Nations should be given the power to revoke the authority due to two reasons. Number one, to eliminate the possibility of the leaders to justify the act of violence, and number two, in order to provide the welfare towards the people in the society, right? Moving on to my argument number one, to prevent the world leaders from justifying their acts of violence. In Malaysia, we see that people are living in peace, but there are some kind of peaceful protests that are happening. This is a form of peaceful protests that are facing towards that because they don't agree with how the governments are conducted. This we deem as bad. But what happens if we live in war-torn countries where you cannot even demonstrate, whereby you cannot even say that, hey, you're wrong, I don't even have any food, I cannot even sleep, but you cannot say that because the leader is actually corrupted to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want your brothers and sisters who are 5 or 6 years old to not be able to have milk or food? Do you want that to happen to you? No! Do you want your parents to be killed in the streets simply because the leader is not responsible enough? No! This is the future that we're trying to eradicate, because the moment we are conceding to the fact that we don't want to change is the moment you lose your humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of the leaders is that they should be compassionate towards the people who are their governing. This is because they have the duty of care towards the people, as they concede to the fact that they will accept the duty to take care of the citizens. Thus, they should stick to the citizens until the end of the day. This strictly follows the principle that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had stated in one of his hadiths in Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith 5200. It follows the maqasid of Sharia, which is the protection of nafs, protection of life. How so? There is a hadith, with care and with responsibility, and that is what we're trying to fight for. And if the leader who governs your country are not following that principle, then the United Nations should revoke their power, because you don't want any more sufferings to happen to your people. For example, right, who is this man? This man is Rodrigo Duterte, and he is the president of the Philippines. His intention was good, to abolish any form of drug addiction. But then, what he did was to shoot anyone he thinks who have ever tested drugs before. For example, if he suspects your mother is a drug addict, he will not put her on trial but shot her in the head in front of your eyes. So that is why it's bad, because you don't give you are allowing them to justify the acts of violence. Who is this leader, ladies and gentlemen? According to Stewart in his book, Aung San Suu Kyi, The Fearless Voice of Burma, this woman was once a Nobel Peace Prize winner. However, nowadays, she legitimizes the killing of Rohingya people. Imagine if you are the people who are living in Myanmar and you are the Rohingyas, forcing to flee inside boats, and when you reach, for example, the shores of Greece, you are shot down. Do you think that's fair for you?
No.
And this is why, again, I think United Nations should have the power to revoke the authority of leaders. There are many other examples of leaders, for example, Bashar al-Assad, who commences war mongering. Right. Let me move on to my second argument for the day, which is to protect the welfare of the people. Right. In certain countries, we may live in Malaysia, which is very peaceful. We have healthcare, we have education, we even have clubs like Zouk and whatnot. So we have time for all this entertainment. So this is what we should be grateful for. However, in certain countries, they don't even have enough welfare, which means not enough healthcare, not enough food on the table, and for children, even not enough love, because they don't even have parents that are alive. So this is what we're trying to change. Right. So this strictly follows Surah Al-Isra, verse 81 inside the Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum wa la tatghaw fihi fayahill alaykum ghadabi wa man yahlil alayhi ghadabi faqad hawa. So inside this verse, Allah had tell us that we should only eat the tayyibats, the good things, and not oppress on other people. And this is how a Muslim should work. And as a Muslim, we should lobby that the United Nations can retract your reign, retract your presidency, and retract your premiership simply because it saves the majority of the people. Which, like what Anwar said before, fake awlawiyat, to prevent major harm, you need to act upon it. For example, the Islamic concept of hukuk and batil relates closely to this concept of protecting the welfare of the people, right? What kind of welfare that you can see right now in the current state of school that is not taken care of? This is not me. Who is this guy? This is Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is the supreme leader of North Korea. His problem is, he does not allow the people in his country to think freely. But every day you are forced to sing, for example, imagine if you wake up every day at 8 and forced to stand up and sing Negaraku every day. And that kind of fascist ideology that he's trying to spread does not even allow you to have political parties, whereby he controls everything, even to the color of the underwear you're wearing. So he controls literally everything in your life. So this is very bad at the end of the day. Who is this king? Again, this is not me, and I don't think that this is Iqbal. This is the picture of King Mswati III, the king of Swaziland, whereby he has almost 4 wives, 6 wives, and he demands cows as birthday presents. But he does not even take care of his people, whereby many of them died because of diseases. So shame on him. So if we allow the United Nations to revoke the power of authority, we can take care of the people better, less people are going to die, and therefore you will create a better nation for better future for the people to live in. Some people would say that the United Nations should not have the right to actually revoke the powers of authorities because of the issues of sovereignty, meaning each country has the right to govern on their own. But then if that right harms other people, then I think that right should be retracted in the end of the day. There are many good world leaders to begin with. For example, who is this? This is the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama and Pope Francis have been governing Tibet and the Vatican City with religious prospect. So as a Muslim, don't we want to govern the country according to an Islamic prospect?
Yes.
So that is the world that we should be living in right now. And we should always choose a leader who is naturally good and without any form of biasness or transparency. For example, who is this guy? This is not me, I don't know who he is, but apparently his face is keep appearing on the newspapers. So issues that are existing, for example, as 1MDB or manipulating elections should not exist in your world leaders and therefore should change in the end of the day. Therefore, in conclusion, I believe that the United Nations should have the power to revoke the authority of the world leaders who are corrupted in order to save lives, to have better family, so you can live in peace. Like what Abraham Lincoln said, not Izan Khairin, We are creating a government for the people, by the people, of the people. And as a quote I create myself, change the world, save lives.